Hello everyone, my name is Alex and welcome to the devlog of my game POLYHIT. Actually, I need to say something about myself first. Like all teenagers, I love playing games and it just so happened that my favorite genre of games is first-person shooters, inspired by games like Quake, Doom, Call of Duty and Battlefield. When I was at 12, I wondered how I could make my own game. When I was at 13, I discovered Game Maker. But since I lived with my grandmother without network and the language of program was English, yes, I don't know English very well, so please don't judge me. I could hardly do anything with it. Later I tried Unity, but the same thing happened. The most I could do was edit the landscape with some brushes in the editor. Somewhere around the age of 14, I met Game Guru. It's not an engine, but it's like a game builder, where I did a couple of cool games. They were actually funny, but so simple. From the time that I began to immerse myself in game development, understanding that Game Guru was severely limited, I started looking for other development tools. In 2016 I found Unreal Engine 4, which was already free and open to all users. I have been using Unreal Engine and have no regrets and no plans to change something. Many will say that it's hard engine, but I disagree. Yes, there were no tutorials in 2015 for example, but there were blueprints at least. Through trials and mistakes I tried to make a game in Unreal Engine 4 in 16 years. It was difficult, but it was a good experience. I spent a lot of time and I like it. In 2020 I started making the game POLYHIT. Yes, it's been 3 years and in effect I didn't do anything. The problem is that I constantly didn't like something and I deleted everything and started over and over. Don't do that, never delete anything that you did before. In addition, I had problems with coding. I wanted to make a AAA multiplayer game with zero knowledge of replication and it was impossible. For example, clients sometimes had delays in movement or shooting and overall optimization was so bad. I decided to force myself to code in C++. For the past 6 months I have been primarily making the game in C++ and it makes me happy. And the process is not as difficult as you might think. After all, I've been doing the same thing for so many years. So I was slowly making the game and decided to create accounts on social networks like Discord and Reddit. I posted a couple of GIFs on Reddit and was pleasantly surprised, so thank you. I'll try to make the video so that everyone can find something interesting. In my first devlog I will talk about the game, what it is, and explain about the character movement, weapons, procedural animation, shooting and aiming. POLYHIT is stylized cooperative first-person shooter with various gameplay mechanics, where you can shoot, control vehicles, hack, explode, upgrade weapons, create your own maps that can be uploaded to Steam Workshop. I am developing this game on my own, which is why development is taking a long time, but I think it will be worth it. The game should be released on Steam soon. Okay, maybe not soon, I don't know. But I will create a page where you can add it to your wishlist. The visual style of the game has changed a lot over time. I first started showing videos in 2016 and it was originally meant to be a typical game with realistic 3D models and lighting, but it was too difficult for one person with little experience, so I decided to change the visuals to low poly. This remained the case until 2023, but I am someone who likes to improve things, so I continued to work on the visual style and eventually achieved what I have now. From this point I decided to continue developing the game because I am completely satisfied with how it looks now. The materials for weapons, character hands and interactive objects will intentionally look more cartoonish than the rest of the environment. Due to the change in the visual style, I decided that the game should be slightly faster than I had originally planned. Regarding the two-player campaign, I have a very good idea to make a really good campaign. A very trivial plot but excellent gameplay where players can interact with each other at certain points. I want to develop a system where players can only talk to each other at certain points during the game without using third-party service like Discord or Skype. This will really improve the gameplay. I am a big fan of games like Call of Duty and I really like their reward system, when you eliminate enemies and you are given an AC-130. So I decided to take that system for my game. I will make one of the most diverse interaction systems for my opinion. In my campaign you can control cars, shoot machine guns, jump from planes, blow things up, disarm bombs and hack. As you saw at the beginning of the video where I open a laptop and hacking it is a part of the interaction where you can have to hack it by using a minigame. I'm also a huge fan of various modifications because I believe that players should have the right to change the game as they want. It is the gaming community that makes any game better. This is another reason why I'm blogging. As I mentioned, I plan to add map creation directly in the game and you will be able to easily export it to Steam Workshop. In fact, I wanted to add the creation of weapons and characters directly in the game. That is to make a really cool modding support. But for several years now, I have not known how to use a runtime import of these objects. I think I have set myself a really huge task, because through my life I set big goals, but I feel that I can do it and I'm really do anything to make it work, to make a really good game. Actually, the movement and weapon system are not fully ready, but you can already see the work process. So let's talk about the movement system. There is not much to say here, because I used a typical system for movement with Unreal Engine 4 character movement. Of course, I had to add a few my boolean variables like running, reloading, shooting. I wrote code for that states in the character, made them replicable and added it in animation blueprint to display them to other players. For example, if a player starts running, he stops aiming and shooting and his speed changes on the server. It's also necessary to change the speed on the client, because if you don't, the speed on the client will be different on the server and on other clients, and as a result the character will teleport. I still have to implement crouching, but I'm not sure yet. In first person mode I actually have more variables because it needs to look as good as possible. The process of switching to procedural animation isn't important for other players, so there's no need to replicate them. Therefore, other players can only see certain things like running, reloading, shooting and all of this without using procedural animation. This also optimizes the game with large number of players. Actually, this is the most important rule when replicating. If you want to make a game with low latency, only replicate the most important information. Everything seems to be fine, but I wanted a more lively picture, so I decided to add weapon and camera tilt when the player moves left or right. The weapon tilt was calculated in the animation blueprint, where I took the player's right vector, limited the value, say from -5 to 5, whereas -5 left, 0 is idle, forward or backward, and 5 is right. Then I interpolated this value every frame and applied it to the bones of the player's arms to rotate. About tilting a camera. At first I just wanted to rotate the camera, which would have been very easy, like in previous way. But then I realized that instead of the camera I need to use the control rotation, which is a basic variable in Unreal Engine 4 that shows the character rotation angles X, Y and Z axis. Since we move the mouth along the X and Y, I need to change that axis. To do that, I had to use the same variable that determines whether the character is moving left or right every frame, just like when rotating the weapon. I added this variable to the control rotation and added the current control rotation variable along the X and Y axis, so that the character could be controlled. If I hadn't done this, the X and Y coordinates would have been always 0, which means no mouse input. About procedural rotation of the weapon, like aiming and shooting, it's quite complicated to explain in detail, but I can summarize it. When people ask me how I achieved this effect, I tell them that it's all about breaking down the structure of my character into separate components, such as the arms and character. Each frame I move the arms using interpolation, which I learned from tutorials on YouTube. For procedural aiming, I have sockets in each side, and my goal was to have the character hands component move to the camera so that it's aligned with the side and center of the screen. I used a lot of things like invert transform, for example, to calculate the alpha time for changing between aim and idle positions. Used some math, for example, 0 is start, 1 is the end of animation of aiming. The system worked well regardless of where I place the sight. For example, you see a gun with literally bad animation, and even with that it's working. As a procedural shooting animation, I used curves to determine the recoil by multiplying it with some random values. The interpolation works the same way as weapons way. While my shooting animation is quite simple, it can be modified as I want. In conclusion, I could talk about this system for a long time, and it would be best to create another video about procedural animation. If you enjoyed my devlog or game, please subscribe to my channel and join my Discord group, where I post some news about my game and answer questions. So have a great day and hope to see you soon.